So again, my name is Staff Sergeant Wesley Thatch. I want to thank you all so much for your time, and we do ask three things from our audience. First, please keep your mic muted and turn off your camera. Second is if you have any questions or comments that is not answered in today's training, please feel free to make a micro ticket, and your ticket will be answered in 3 to 5 business days. And lastly, we ask our audience to stay up to date with our AFI for this training. The AFI I'm referencing will be AFI 36-2406. And again, this meeting is being recorded and it will be uploaded on YouTube, our YouTube channel and VVids, and it will be later posted on our Teams channel as well. So let's get started. Unless a lot of people are channeling in right now, so I'll give it like a minute or two. Unless, yeah, I'm still admitting people into this meeting, but I feel like we should just go ahead and start. So, as you can see, these are the most common errors we've been getting when evals are being submitted here at ARPC. Again, going with directed by half, putting the list aside. I'm going to kind of quote that. Well, I'm going to quote the AFI 36-146, paragraph 4.7.2.2. If a promotion/demotion has occurred and the rating will have more than 24 months, 12 months for AGR, from the last evaluation and the new established SCOD static closeout date for the new rank, a directed by half report is required to close out the day prior to the status occurred. Now, assuming everybody knows the static closeout dates for each rank, I'm gonna pull up a quick example to kind of walk you through step by step how directed by half is done. So let me just pull this up. So for this example, we are the component, as you can see, is going to be reserve. The status is non-EAD. The current rank is senior airman. The last closed out EPR closed out on 31 March 2016, and they promoted to staff sergeant on the 1st of June 2017. Now the start date will always be the same. It will always be the last closed out, the day after the last closed out report. So since the senior airman last closeout EPR is 31 March 2016, the start date will be 1 April 2016. And the start date will always be the same, direct by half or not. Okay. From the data rank, so the member promoted to staff sergeant on the 1st of June 2017, the next applicable SCOD for staff sergeants will be 31 Jan 2019. Now, judging from the start date, which we established to be 1 April 2016, and the next applicable staff sergeant closeout date, 31 Jan 2019, that will help us gauge if a directed by half report will be needed. And since this does exceed over the 2-year time frame for non-EAD, a direct by half will be required. Now, the report will reflect 1 April 2016, the start date doesn't change, through 31 May 2017, the day before they promoted to staff sergeant. So this is the last day they were a senior airman. The reason for report will be directed by half, and the rank will reflect senior airman because that's what they are closing as a senior airman on this day. Now, the next report will reflect the day after when this one closed out, which will be 1 June 2017, and then it will close. That's the start date, 1 June 2017, and then the closeout will be 31 Jan 2019 because that's the next applicable staff sergeant SCOD. And the reasons for report will reflect biannual. Perfect. All right, moving on to our next common mistake For the A1C and below guidance, in accordance with AFI 36-1406, paragraph 4.6.4, for AFR members who have not had a previous evaluation, use the member's date of assignment to the ARC. For seniormen and below, use the date of initial entry uniform service, also known as the DIAS. And the next applicable SCOD from when they promoted to senior airmen from their DIAS, which the DIAS will be their start date. Let me rephrase. You know what? Let me put an example with that. Go ahead.
Sergeant Thad, you stopped sharing your screen. You stopped sharing your screen.
Oh. What? Technical difficulties, folks. I'm sorry. Okay, how's that?
It's back up.
Sweet. Okay. From the top, everybody. A1C and below. Go ahead. Okay. For example, if a member gets promoted to seniorman on 8 August 2019, the report will close out on 31 March 2020, because that's the next applicable senior airman SCOD, and since they are non-EAD, it has to end on even years. If they are a senior airman and below and has a previous evaluation on fire, use the day after the closeout date and the previous evaluation to the next applicable SCOD. Now, moving on to the referral reports that we've been getting a lot, and some of the common errors we've been getting with the referral reports are the signature dates. Now, this is okay. Referral memos must be dated the same date as when the rater signed the evaluation in accordance with paragraph 1.10.5.1.1. The date the ratee acknowledges the referral memo, which is the referral memo, starts the clock for the additional rater to complete and sign the report. It's going to be 3 days for AGR and 30 days for non-EAD. And then for the mandatory statements, this mandatory statement will be in the additional raters comment section. Comments will either be comments from the ratee were requested but not received within the required time period, or I have carefully considered, input ratee's name, comments to the referral document, and then you input the date of when the ratee acknowledges. Now, reports will be kicked back if the referral and if it is a referral and there aren't any mandatory comments. And we did a whole training session on that, and I went into the meats and potatoes on referral reports that can be found on our YouTube channel on how to process and write referral reports. Now, moving on to the prohibited statements. As you can see, that first bullet is the fitness scores / categories. So members cannot mention fitness scores categories such as like I scored 95% on my PT test and it came out excellent. No personal fitness statements unless signifying that the member helped the PT, such as being a PTL or UFPM. So the only way it's allowed is it's a referral, and it's referring the member that failed the PT test. That's when you can mention the fitness scores. For PME, no PME statements can't mention or recommend ALS, NCOA, senior NCOA, unless the member won an award such as the Level 2 Award, the Academic Achievement, the Commandant, the DGs, or the Leadership Awards. In accordance with AFI 36-146, paragraph 4.16.3, which breaks it down in specific categories. And by the way, the completion of the FEJPME is allowed. For officers, no specific schools such as AWC, ACSC, and etc. To include your DE, only the terms PDE, IDE, SDE, or authorized. Moving on to the next slide. Now, periods of reports. For periods of report, sometimes what's projected in MilPDS can be wrong because once we process a report that comes to us, it automatically projects the next line. Now, the member could have like either promoted, demoted, which will change their static closeout date, which make the projected line invalid. So please have CSS/the MPF to verify the dates in Prada or MilPDS because they can always go in and fix that error for you. This will help alleviate the back and forth between us here at ARPC and the field. Now, missing rater/ratee signature blocks. So we've been getting a lot of reports that's been submitted to us where either the rater or the ratee forgot to sign the report. So we've been getting a lot of evaluations without the ratee signature on it. Please note that if the ratee isn't available to sign, there is a drop-down box that says either the ratee refused to sign or ratee is unavailable to sign. And anyone from the rating chain that is signing the evaluation itself can sign in place for the ratee. We've been noticing that you guys been just putting ratee unavailable to sign and leaving the signature block blank. So anyone signing the evaluations can sign in place for the ratee if the ratee is not available. And last but not least, Air Force 911. We've been noticing that Section 9 has been left blank, and please note that. Should I mention that new? No, I shouldn't. Please have your applicable commanders sign and complete that section because we've been getting a lot of it blank. And so, Heine, you want to add anything to that particular spot?
So the 911, Section 9 is mandatory. We know that there's been guidance sent out saying that the intermediate and deputy evaluators are no longer signatories for that section, but we haven't received much more guidance than that. So please be on the lookout for how that actual section should be completed for the 911. We know the Master Sergeant Scott is coming up here in a few days, so there should be more guidance released on how to actually complete that section coming out soon. So just please be on the lookout for that.
Perfect. Thank you for your input, Sir Heine. And I know this is kind of like a short section because we were just going over the common errors. So that's why we voted to open this up for a little Q&A session. So we can answer your questions that you may have that you thought of during this meeting. And Tech Sergeant Heine and I believe Sergeant Lawyer is here too. And of course, I will try to answer your questions at the best of our abilities. And don't forget that if any of your questions or comments / concerns weren't answered in today's session, you can always input a My First Ticket, and that My First Ticket is usually answered within 3 to 5 business days. And please review any updates to the AFI 36-146. And from that point, I'm going to open up for any questions in our audience. Please feel free to raise your hands, and I'll get to the people who dialed in as well. So we have a question from Major Rondon. Go ahead and
Yeah,
unmute yourself, and
it's
go ahead.
Major Rondon.
Sorry.
So I just wanted to add to that comment that we had about the deputy and intermediate evaluators. There was a message that came out on 21 September yesterday from headquarters ARPC, the DPT department, saying that effective 30 September of 2021, this will not be authorized. So the information is out there. So I'm not sure if I should forward this. It came from my purse, but it says that we don't have to mark them anymore.
So, Heine, I know you have more information about this.
So the intermediate and deputy isn't authorized, but we still aren't 100% sure if the senior rater then has to sign every single 911 or if Section 9 is left blank. I don't think that letter specifically stated which one has to be completed. So that's what we were alluding to when we said we aren't 100% sure how that section is going to look like. So once we get more information on that, we're probably going to push out another message as well, just kind of giving guidance on how to actually complete that section.
Understood. Thanks.
Hey, everybody. Hey, excuse me. This is Sergeant Ray from 2nd Air Force A1. So just to add on to that, the intent from from AFPC with that memorandum was for Section 9 to be used for the level of closeout. So regardless of where the member's 911 is closing out, whether it be at the squadron, group commander, or wing level, that signature block is going to be whoever that is. So if the member's getting senior rater strated, then obviously it's going to be the senior rater because that's where the evaluation is going to close out. But other than that, everyone's evaluation will close out with the evaluator that is assigned to that passcode.
Thank you. All right. We have a question from Diana Pina. Sorry, I'm butchering that. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Can you talk about where you mentioned something about there was training videos also available out on your YouTube channel, specifically more about the referral EPR, OPRs. Can you talk about where we can locate that information? Over.
Yeah. Yes. Are you able to see my screen still?
Yes.
I'm assuming yes. All right. So we do have ARPC's evaluation teams channel here that anyone can join, and you can join our team by searching this name right here. And then under our training tab, you can go over to the training and video channel, which I love about Teams. We can add any videos that we wanted here. Hopefully it loads up. And bam, here we have all our quizzes and the videos that we recorded in this past year on different training types that we went over. And the referral process training is right here. All you gotta do is just click here and it'll take you directly to that video that we recorded on DVids. So please feel free to join our ARPC Evaluations Training channel. And here you have access to all of our resources. All right. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. I have a message, Malman. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away.
Hi, this is Staff Sergeant Ray and Master Sergeant Mallman at the 2nd Air Force A1. So our question is in regards to Block 7 with the members' information. For members who are non-EAD, we've noticed that previously we would annotate in parentheses in the organization command, location, and component. We would annotate that in parentheses that they are non-EAD, but we've been getting some evaluations that don't have it. There's just been some discrepancies, and so we're trying to hammer down, do we put in parentheses non-EAD? Is it required? Is it not? If it's optional, let us know. Regardless, bottom line, where's the reg that says we need to put it or not?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Sir Heine. I believe the AFI doesn't really specify, which makes this option optional. So either the member can input their status and they can just leave it blank, but we do recommend inputting their status non-EAD or AGR to help us out when processing to determine the correct static closeout date for that member's rank.
I will say
correct.
though that this is for officers, by the way. The question specifically, we're specifically
for
asking
officers?
about. Yes.
Oh, okay.
So in the
physical
AFI,
supplies,
it
Sir
doesn't
Heine?
specify.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it doesn't specify in the AFI whether it's mandatory or not. For officers, we recommend. Well, we've gotten a few notes from the board recommending not to add AGR or non-EAD for officers, just because it just takes a little bit more bias out from the actual board members for officers. But it doesn't actually specify in the AFI whether it's required or not required. So it still is, up to the units to decide if they want those on the reports. But for officers, we have gotten notes that say maybe not to add those on the reports.
Okay, heard, understood. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much. Master Sergeant Salinas, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away. Oh, okay. If not, is there A1C Espinoza? We'll get back to you, Master Sergeant Salinas. Go ahead, A1C Espinoza. Do you have a question?
I just have a question about senior airmen EPRs. I am at a guard base and I've sent in an initial EPR for a senior airman, but it was the day before they made staff sergeant. So I put it as initial and it got sent back to me for directed by half. So I don't know, because they made senior airmen right after the cutoff of EPRs, but then they didn't. But then they made staff before the next senior airman EPR. So I didn't know whether I should put it as initial or as directed by half. It got sent back as initial, but it was their first EPR. So how am I to do that in the future so it doesn't get sent back? Are they always directed by half if it's the day before a rank change? And only initial if it falls on the actual date that senior airman EPRs are due?
Ooh, those are the rare occasions that happen. So, Heine, I think you can best explain it more than I can.
So these ones are extremely rare, but they do happen. We kind of how you explained it, initial if it ends on the actual SCOD, or directed by half if it ends the day before they promote. So in the situations where senior airmen miss the SCOD but then promote to staff before the next SCOD, we've been using directed by half for those. Even though it is their first EPR, it still makes more sense to do a directed by half, just because it is ending the day that before they promote instead of actually on the senior airman SCOD. So in the future, for those instances, we recommend directed by half instead of initial.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sir Heine. I know how to process it, but it's kind of hard to explain without like visual aid guiding me. But you with your technical skills, I appreciate that. All right. Next question, Master Sergeant. Oh, wait, we just answered it. All right. We're gonna try A1C Espinoza again. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Go ahead.
So
Yes, I
I'm
can.
from a
Go
guard.
ahead.
I'm from a guard base too. And we have a member who enlisted in 2017 and promoted to senior airman in 2020, December 2020. And so I tried submitting an initial senior airman EPR, and they had sent it back to me and said that I won't be able to submit one until 2022, but that's way over the 36 months. Is that accurate?
That is accurate because we are getting rid of that 20-month rule. I believe we already did because of the technical issues that came with it, because the member could be still at tech school when they hit that 20-month mark, and they don't have enough bullets to input for their initial EPRs. So that's why we urge to make the start date their DIAS, which for your member is 2017. And when the next applicable senior airman SCOD from when they promoted, what you said was in December 2020. So because it missed that 31 March 2020 senior airman cutoff date, the next applicable senior airman SCOD will be in 2022.
Okay, sounds good. And then I did have one more question. So if we have someone that recently promoted to a tech sergeant, and she had her last staff sergeant in January, would she be on the SCOD date for this year for tech sergeant, which would be November?
Yes.
Okay. All right, perfect.
November,
that's all my
2020. Yep.
Okay, perfect. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Awesome. All right.
We can move on to the members who have called in. If you called in and you have a question, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, and then we'll go through and see who's unmuted. You have to hit *6 to unmute yourself, and then we'll just see that the microphone is unmuted, and then we can call on the specific phone numbers.
Yes, I have a question about members arriving at a duty station, and on our alpha roster, we may have one date arrived station, and the member actually in processing maybe a couple of months later. My question is what date are we going to be using for this number?
Sorry, honey, correct me if I'm wrong. It will be their date arrived station, correct?
Correct. We're going to use the date arrived station just because that's the official date that they actually joined the unit. Whether or not they in-processed a few months later, they still were officially gained on that date arrived station.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. We do have a hand raise from Master Sergeant Salinas.
Hello.
Hello. Go ahead.
Hi. This is Sergeant.
Oh.
Yes, I don't know what's going on with my mic on my computer, so I had to actually call on my phone. I'm sorry about this.
It's okay. Go ahead.
So my question is in regards to stress, and I am assigned the senior sergeant at chance with 826. So we are a reg-aff unit. We have AGRs, we have IMAs as well. So every time it comes down to strat time, they're always back and forth.
in regards to how it should be done. And unless I'm reading wrong the AFI, the way I understand it is there's two strats, one for REGAF and then one for ARC. And the ARC is all together, whether it's AGR or IMA.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted confirmation or to ensure that we're doing it the right way, because the way I read it, it didn't seem like we can strat within statuses in ARC.
I'm going to refer this to our subject matter expert, Tech Sergeant Heine. Take it away.
Ma'am, that is correct. So you could be stratted within the component, but not the actual status. So RegAF would be stratted together, Reserve would be stratted together, and Guard would be stratted together, whether or not you're AGR or non-EAD. It's always going to be by component. So the components will be stratted together.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's exactly how I was reading the AFI, but we were getting a little bit of mixed information between Rio, who managed the IMA, and last time we pulled a guidance from ARPC. So I just wanted to get reformation, and that totally makes sense. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Master Sergeant Salinas, you have your hand raised. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello?
Hello. Go ahead.
Hi. So this is Sergeant Salinas. I got a different scenario. Is ARPC, are you guys responsible for reviewing to make sure all the signatures are on the 910, 911, 707, every types of evaluation?
Yes, we do confirm if there are signatures on the evaluations when a process.
All right. So with that said, I have a lieutenant colonel who his OPR was not signed by the general, and it made it to his record.
Oh.
So is that something that should we do a correction to record, or how do we approach that scenario?
So an ERAB will have to be processed to pull and replace that evaluation that's in the member's record with the corrected, fully signed evaluation that you want. And that can be accessed through the MyPre's website. And when you're initiating, there is a link for submitting an ERAB report.
I do want to caveat that. So Sergeant Thatch mentioned that we do review if signatures are on the report. So we don't actually do a 100% review on every single report. So if we do end up reviewing the report, then yes, we would look to see if there's signatures. But if we do not, we do have a system that automatically pushes reports if it meets certain criteria. So if the certain criteria is met, then the system will automatically push it to the member's records. So in the AFI, it actually does say that the CSS and MPS is responsible for reviewing the report before it gets sent up to ARPC. So we do highly recommend that the CSS and MPS reviews the reports before it gets to our level, just so that these types of cases don't happen and the auto push system does push a report in that's not fully completed. If there is a report in the member's records that isn't fully completed, the Evaluations Report Appeals Board, or ERAB, is the first route to remove that report and replace it with the correct report. And an ERAB is initiated in VPC, kind of how you would initiate a new EVR. There's a little tab that says initiate ERAB request. So the CSS or the member themselves can submit the ERAB to replace the report. Either or will work.
So yes, sir. So caveat to that, the CSS reviews the EPR or OPR. However, when it comes to the signature portion, we do not see it at our end. So it's all being routed to like numbered Air Force and then goes straight to the member as 318 and it goes to you guys. So we do not see if all the blocks are signed. So just FYI.
There is a way to actually change the routing structure for your actual organization. You have to contact your PSM to get the actual access on creating the routing. I think it's called the routing administrator role in VPC, and you can actually create a routing process so that the last step is actually the CSS or MPS. So that should help you be able to review the reports before it gets to our level as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Sarhani. So our next person who has their hand raised is a senior airman, and I apologize, your name is super long, so I'm gonna sound it out. So it's gonna be Baltazar Tenzin Shun, and your first name is Yasina. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question. All right. Well, we can get back to you, Seniorman. Anyone who dialed in and have a question, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, I can.
Hi. Yeah. Sorry. This is Sergeant Alvarez. I'm on Senior Airman Baltazar's account right now.
Mm-hmm.
Hello. Okay. So I have just a question about. Sorry about the confusion. A question about the accounting dates calendar in the AFI. And I was just wondering, is the accounting dates utilized for who? Reserves, active duty, all, or what is that actually for?
It is utilized for all.
Okay, because I was told. Okay, because we have a situation where I was utilizing the accounting dates for a member who came from active duty and then to reserves, but their active duty unit is saying that they don't use the accounting dates, so they want us to write it. So we're in like a constant battle of who's writing or who's signing.
This is Sergeant Heine. So accounting dates are only going to be used for PCS or PCA within the same component. So if a member is coming from, I'm sorry, there's someone pretty close to their microphone.
Is that me? I'll mute myself.
No, but anyways, I'll just keep going. Hopefully you can hear me over the loud background noises of someone else's. That's better. So that's only going to be used for within the same component. So if a member transfers from RegAF to Guard or Guard to Reserves, then the new unit, whoever had that member on the actual SCOD will write the entire report. If the member is transferring in the same component from a Guard unit to another Guard unit, that's when the accounting dates will be used. So in this case, if the member transferred from RegAF to your unit before the SCOD, your unit would be responsible for the entire report, and the accounting dates would not be used in that instance. Again, they're only used for PCS or PCA within the same component.
Oh, okay. That actually clarifies a lot. Can you still hear me too?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And then just another question to follow up. It's the same member. So I guess the active duty did, I guess, say correctly they're not going to write it because the accounting dates if they're coming to reserves, which is great. But they did provide an LOE. The only thing is they put no bullets, no nothing. So that, I mean, is there a thing that actually says like, hey, your LOE has to have bullets, or is it required or it's not?
Unfortunately, if the LOE that they provided doesn't have bullets, then that's, I mean, I guess that's what they wanted to do. Unfortunately, there's nowhere in the AFI that says they have to add, a certain amount of bullets when they leave.
Okay.
I mean, if you trust the member enough to ask them what they did when they were reg app, you could
Yeah.
use those bullets because it is the period of report. But
Mhm.
if you do want to just strictly go off of LOEs, because that's your unit's policy, then unfortunately they didn't provide anything.
Okay, got it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Master Sergeant Moody, you have your hand raised. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away.
Hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, the microphone wasn't working. So with us, we have all AGRs in our unit. So with that being said, a lot of times we're getting TRs and or IMAs transferring to our unit. So with that, I know it goes from biannual to annual. So when we submit those evaluations, it will cover pretty much the last date of their last evaluation up until the annual SCOD date. So with that, we're putting annual. Is that correct?
Yes. So whatever the evaluation closed out as, and they're closing out as that status. So they're closing out as an AGR on that closeout date, then the reason for report will be annual.
Okay, thank you.
Nope. Yes, ma'am. Master Sergeant Arminio, you have your hand raised. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, in reference to, excuse me, the other person that was speaking concerning people changing units and et cetera, we have a member within the PA Guard that transferred from one unit to another. She is a master sergeant. So she was told by her gaining unit that we had to do an EPR on her for the time period she was here. So she's actually due her EPR the end of this month, but she left our unit in January. So would we do a CRO EPR on her before she left or not? Does that make sense?
You said CRO for an EPR?
Isn't that a change of rater?
I believe
How would we
CROs
do a
are only
closeout
utilized
for her
for.
leaving our unit? I guess what I'm trying to ask, how would we do a closeout EPR for her leaving our unit and then the new unit doing a new one? Is that needed? I guess is what my question is.
Sorry,
This is the case of when accounting dates would be used. So CROs are no longer used for enlisted members. Because the member left in January, that's way before the accounting date. So the new unit would be writing the entire report from the start date through the closeout. So they wouldn't start it the day the member joined their unit. They would start it, the day after their last report closed out. And they are responsible for the entire reporting period.
Okay, and that the accounting dates, that's in the AFI, because I'm not familiar with that.
Yes. So the accounting dates are in the AFI. It's table here. Let me pull up the specific AFI. Right. Oh, table 4.6.
4.6. Okay, I will look that up. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. On anyone who has dialed in and do have a question, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away.
There is an 817 number that's unmuted. So you can, if you have the 817-845 number, then we'll let you go first. Okay, you muted yourself. All right, the 919-722 number. All right, and then the 937-904 number. Um, 678-531.
Hi, this is Sergeant Parks. Yes, this is Sergeant Parks from the 22nd Air Force. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I had a question regarding an ERAB, and it's an enlisted member who had a closeout as tech sergeant in 2018 around December, and then they promoted the following year in 2019 in August. They have a evaluation on record as a directed by half. We should be routing it, or the corrected form, because it shouldn't have been a directed by half, but we should be routing that as an ERAB. Is that right?
Yes. If it's already in the members, that directed by half is already in the members record, and you want to pull and replace it with this new corrected EPR, then yes, an ERAB will have to be submitted.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that. I think that's the only question that I had.
Thank you, sir. All right, we have a 919-72 number that's unmuted. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Ask your question. Okay, what about the 937-904?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead and ask your question.
Can you hear me? So basically,
yes, hello.
This is Sergeant Salinas again. So all I'm waiting for is the answer regarding how you guys stated that the system, meaning PRDA, once you upload the evaluations, that it will automatically populate in MilPDS. Our scenario is that we've been seeing a lot of evaluations that's not being populated into MilPDS. That the projected closeout date for the next report is not there, like everything's disappearing or nothing's being populated, which we are fixing on our level when we review our evaluation, but based on you guys' slides, it should automatically populate. So I just need some clarification on that. You guys copy?
Sorry, yes. Sorry, Heine, we do have MilPDS technical issues, is that right? On projecting?
Yeah, so sometimes MilPDS it's been acting kind of poorly lately, and it doesn't always project the next one. If that's the case, then the CSS should be able to add a projection in for the next report. If there's not a projection, then we recommend just using the knowledge of the SCODs and when the member's next report should be to actually add that manual projection in there. We've tried getting MilPDS developers and AFPOA to talk with us about some of the issues that we've seen. So hopefully those issues could be rectified. But in the meantime, we recommend just doing manual projections if the member doesn't have a projection in there.
Thank you, sir, Heine. We have a 919-722 number that is unmuted. Do you go ahead and ask your question? All right. If not, I don't see anyone else with their hand raised or unmuting themselves. So, Heine, any last comments before we end today's meeting?
I will give one more opportunity. If you have a question and we haven't called on you, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. We'll give you about 30 seconds for any final questions, and then we'll wrap it up for the day. And *6 again if you called in and you're looking to unmute yourself.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon, y'all. Thank you for doing this learning session. This is Sergeant King. I'm calling from MacDill Air Force Base out of Tampa, Florida. Something that we kind of got used to for a while there, now it sort of has been taken away, and I'm just wondering if there's a reason behind it or if there will be a change to it soon, is the fact that we used to be able to call in with questions, and now we're required to do everything through these digital channels. Is that going to maybe change back at any time, or could you at least put like limited hours for your phone call requests? Any type of help in that manner?
That is a great question. So once COVID started and we weren't in the office, we did stop taking phone calls from TFSC. They do, so if you do call TFSC, they do open a question ticket on your behalf with the question, and it does come to us. Our branch chief is also on the line. I'm going to have her answer this a little bit more better than I can.
Okay, thank
Hi, I'm
you.
Sergeant Dempsey. So since COVID-19 hit, we've been strictly teleworking. We are only required in the building a certain amount of days, and our hours are extremely fluctuated. So going forward, it's going to be completely, the call center is at Total Force Service Center 100%, and we will not be receiving phone calls at ARPC any longer. The quickest we can get to you is the MyPers instance. We typically will answer those in any time from 1 to 3 business days, Monday through Friday. So if you do call the Total Force Service Center and they cannot answer your question, they do send us a MyPers instant as well that we will respond to, and it'll go automatically back to your account and your email. But again, that's also in 1 to 3 business days. But unfortunately, going forward, we will not be answering any phone calls at ARPC. Over.
Copy. Thank you.
All right, one last call for any last minute questions. I'll give you 30 seconds before we conclude this meeting.
It does look like C. Baker has their hand raised if they wanted to unmute and ask their question. All right, Sergeant Thatch, I think unless you have anything else, then we will conclude today's. Oh, there was someone. Was someone trying to ask a question before I was talking? No. Okay. Well, we will conclude today. Thank you for all your questions. And again, we will be having training once a month. Please join the ARPC evaluations team in Microsoft Teams. We have all of our training material on there. We have the calendar for any future trainings. So we highly, highly recommend joining that team. So thank you all, and have a great day.
All right. Thank you, Sergeant Honey. I wanted to thank the audience for your time again. And please feel free to open any MyPers tickets for any questions that weren't answered in today's session. And those MyPers tickets are usually answered within 3 to 5 business days. And last but not least, please review any updates to the AFI 36-2046. And that will conclude today's meeting. Have a good one, everyone.